So Kristen and I are going to tag team today in a presentation about coastal development permits. We'll give an overview of what is a coastal development permit or CDP, how do you get one, where do you get one, why do you need one, and we'll go through some past examples of permits that we've issued for projects on agricultural lands in this region, and some ideas for streamlining in terms of permitting and for permitting some of the types of projects for sea level rise adaptation that Kelsey mentioned. And Kelsey gave some background on our agency. I just wanted to mention that the Coastal Commission, we're a statewide agency. We have district offices up and down the state, and the North Coast District office is here in Arcata, and we handle coastal issues in Del Norte, Humboldt, and Mendocino counties. We work with the coastal counties and the coastal cities to plan and regulate land use and development in the coastal zone. And the reason why we do that is to protect coastal resources. And some of those coastal resources are shown here. And as you can see, coastal agricultural lands are a type of coastal resource that we're interested in protecting. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kristen to talk about some background, and then we'll get to some examples.
Hi. Okay, so where is the coastal zone? That's a good question. It extends 3 miles out to sea, and inland it extends anywhere from a few hundred feet in highly urban areas to up to 5 miles in certain rural areas. And you can see in Humboldt Bay, it gets narrower in urban areas like Eureka, and it expands to include a lot of the agricultural lands. As Kelsey and Alderon mentioned, the Coastal Act requires local governments to adopt local coastal programs consisting of policies and regs to carry out the Coastal Act at the local level. Once the Commission certifies those local coastal programs as being consistent with and adequate to carry out the Coastal Act, the local governments assume responsibility for issuing coastal development permits in their jurisdictions. The Commission does retain some permitting and appeal jurisdiction, and the Commission is responsible for certifying amendments to those LCPs. Arcata, Eureka, and Humboldt County all have certified LCPs, so in their respective jurisdictions, they issue the coastal development permits. They all were certified in the 80s, and although the Commission has certified amendments over the years, none have undergone major updates, except Eureka's land use plan in 1999. So right now, all 3 jurisdictions are working on major updates to their local coastal programs, and the Commission and the Ocean Protection Council have issued several grants in recent years to help them with that endeavor, and a lot of them are focused on adding policies and regulations to address sea level rise. So to recap, if you need a coastal development permit, if you're in an area covered by a certified LCP, you go to the local jurisdiction, and they use their local coastal program policies and regs to evaluate whether your project is consistent with the LCP. If you're on submerged lands, tide lands, public trust lands, and in uncertified areas, this also includes a lot of diked former tide lands where the ag is, you need to come to the Coastal Commission for your coastal development permit. And the standard of review is the Coastal Act, but we can use the LCPs as guidance. Also, some of the city and county's decisions on coastal development permits are appealable to the Coastal Commission, and some aren't. So, do I need a CDP? If you're in the coastal zone and what you're doing constitutes development, you more than likely need a CDP, although there are some exemptions to the need for a permit, which I'm about to talk about. First, I wanted to get into what constitutes development. This is the definition of development in the Coastal Act. As you can see from the length of it, it is very broad and it covers pretty much everything under the sun. But it does not cover the harvesting of vegetation for agricultural purposes, so that's not development, needing a permit. And then going back, the Coastal Act includes some exemptions for certain types of developments that apply in certain instances, and our regulations explain when these do and don't apply. So, for instance, if you're in a wetland and you're improving a structure, it's not exempt. So if you think something's exempt, make sure to call our office. Also, if you're confused about whether you're in the coastal zone or whose jurisdiction you're in, feel free to call us or the local planning department. Also, the city of Arcata and Eureka and Humboldt County all have really good online mapping that you can go use. It's open to the public and it's really helpful and has maps of all this stuff. There's also a type of exemption where the commission can approve a categorical exclusion order in a local jurisdiction where they can, for instance, Humboldt County has excluded agricultural accessory structures from needing a permit in certain areas, and the commission approved that in the 80s. So it's in specific geographic areas. This is a map from the Humboldt County's online GIS mapping, and it covers a lot of structures. But again, just make sure to check with us to verify that you're covered. And so if you're not exempt and you do need a permit, if you're coming to the commission for a permit, we're looking at whether your development is consistent with the policies of the Coastal Act. And the local governments have similar policies that they'll talk about after our talk. So again, the Coastal Act has a lot of addresses a lot of resources and priority issues, and that can make permitting tricky. I'm going to talk about some of those policies on ag lands. The Coastal Act has strong protections for agricultural land, really restricting conversion for non-agricultural uses on viable agricultural lands, and this can make it difficult to get a permit for a non-ag use or structure on ag lands. There's also strong restrictions on urban expansion into agricultural lands, limitations on subdivisions in rural areas. A lot of ag lands in Humboldt County are also seasonal wetlands, and there's really strong wetland protections in the Coastal Act. Excavation and fill in wetlands is only allowed for these 7 uses I have up here, which are all coastal dependent, resource dependent, and or uses with a public benefit. And ag uses aren't one of those 7. Also, we talked about flooding capacity issues and the need to alter water courses. There's protections that limit alterations of streams for necessary water supply projects, flood control, and fish and wildlife habitat improvement. So I'm going to pass it back to Melissa.
So if you're in the coastal zone and you need a permit, what are the permit process options? So first you figure out you have development in the coastal zone. Depending on whose jurisdiction you're in, you'll either go to the local government or to the coastal commission for your permit. There are some other avenues besides a coastal development permit that you might be able to take advantage of depending on the type of project. Well, for one thing, there's a consolidated coastal development permit, which in some cases, because the boundaries of where your property boundaries are with respect to where the jurisdictional lines are, you might bisect 2 different jurisdictions, but instead of having to get 2 separate permits, you could just get a single consolidated coastal development permit, so that can save a little bit of time and cost. We also have a process where the Coastal Commission can waive the requirement for a coastal development permit for certain types of projects that pose no risk to coastal resources of any kind and are fully consistent with the Coastal Act. That's called a waiver. It's very streamlined and less expensive. So that might be appropriate. We've done waivers for things like pole barn construction and fence repair and some repair and maintenance of existing structures, those types of projects. And then there's a federal consistency process where if a federal agency decides to undertake and obtain an authorization for approval from our commission for certain types of projects in certain areas, they can obtain that approval ahead of time, and it functions as an umbrella permit to allow the undertaking of certain types of activities on individual private landowners, where the federal agency works with the private landowner to undertake those activities under this umbrella permit. So the NRCS has done this in this region, and the NOAA Restoration Center as well. So I'll talk about some examples of those. So one example I wanted to mention is a dike repair and habitat restoration project that was permitted on Rat River Slough back in 2008. And this was a project for which the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service provided technical assistance to the landowner. So I think that took care of some of the permitting burden for the landowner. They didn't have to pay the application fee. They worked with the service. And in this case, the dike repairs that the landowner wanted to undertake were facilitated by the fact that they included a little bit of the retreat option that Kelsey was talking about earlier. So this is a diked farmed wetlands on Rat River Slough, and the old earthen levees were, deteriorating and falling apart, and they were getting flooding of the pasture land. So the site plan is kind of difficult to really see there, but in this area, they did some repairs to the dike, and they pulled it back, and they restored about 2 acres of salt marsh bench on the seaward side of it, and that enabled them to undertake these repairs consistent with our wetland fill policies, because the project was for habitat restoration, but they also got a sturdier dike. So that was they also had some drainage improvements to the tide gate that helped improve their pasture lands as well. So they had some habitat restoration components that enabled them to get their coastal development permit. Another example, this is one of a consolidated CDP and a blanket permit of sorts that is ongoing as we speak. This is the Salt River Ecosystem Restoration Project. So in this case, the large project area, the Yellow River Delta, spans multiple jurisdictions. Instead of having to get multiple permits, the RCD, acting on behalf of the agent for all of the property owners, I think there's 50 different property owners in this area, they just got a single consolidated permit. So they all came together to deal with this large flood alleviation and habitat restoration permit under one permit. And this was done on a large scale, but it can be helpful sometimes for neighbors to work together on a permit. And some of the slides that Alderon showed where, you have a dike that, ends, and then the next property owner may not, do the same repairs, and then the property owner who does the repairs can still get flooding. So working together under a single permit can sometimes be beneficial. So they did that in this case. It was it's a flood control and habitat restoration project. They did substantial alterations to the Salt River, 7.5 miles of river dredging, which we were able to prove consistent with the Coastal Act because it was for the dual purpose of flood control to protect existing structures in the floodplain, as well as habitat restoration. And although there was a large conversion of non-prime ag lands on Riverside Ranch, there was a conversion of about 300 acres of ag lands in the blue there on Riverside Ranch to restore tidal marsh. Those lands were, they were converted for restoration, but they actually served to protect surrounding prime ag lands, 750 acres in the surrounding area, by enhancing the capacity, the hydraulic capacity of the river to drain. And then the last project I'll highlight is one that we recently permitted. The North Coast Regional Land Trust undertook some adaptive management, and they also took advantage of one of the umbrella permits held by the NOAA Restoration Center in this region. And this is out on freshwater farms. They had phase 1 work that they did back in 2008, where they decided they wanted to restore some tidelands on the property, but also retain some lands for agriculture use. But then the project, although it was really successful, they had some adaptive management that they needed to undertake more recently. They were having some problems with the drainage of the tidelands. And so we ended up, permitting some of it through the CDP process, and some of it went under the umbrella permit. So what we permitted under the CDP process was placement of fill in the pasture lands. The fill placement was for a habitat restoration purpose and also a water quality protection purpose. So the green areas is where the fill was placed. The dark green is higher fill, the light green is lower fill. So essentially it was directing the tidal drainage back down towards the tidelands and away from this coho ponds that they had restored on Wood Creek, which was being degraded by some of the water quality issues that they needed to do that adaptive management for. And then the phase 2 work, they wanted to do the additional fish restoration upstream of that Coho Pond. So they were able to do that under the umbrella permit with the NOAA Restoration Center. Like I mentioned, the NRCS in the past has had this same type of umbrella permit in this region for all of these types of developments on private lands. So working with willing landowners to undertake certain projects. The permitting is already done by the federal agency, but the federal agency needs to be, responsible for carrying out the project in cooperation with the landowner. So to sum up, in the coastal zone, often a CDP is required for development. It usually is, but there are some exemptions. And the purpose of requiring a CDP of these regulations is to protect coastal resources now and into the future. That includes ag lands and wetlands, other types of resources. And there's various options for permit streamlining, like I discussed, and on farmed wetlands, often by incorporating habitat restoration components into your project, you could get benefit of drainage improvements as well to make the land more productive. And, oops. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact our office. That's it.